into Rye with the beer, and they go, "You've been next door."
They were partying when we left.
It's rolling.
No, I had a great time. I want to do it more. If Hazy don't want to do it, I mean, I don't want to take something from him, but we're good to go now.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna start talking while you're up.
Hey Jim, we're blinking.
Abe Lincoln. Sorry, I have to say it every time now. More like Slaberham Lincoln, because he was the man.
Oh.
Emancipation Proclamation. 77 years ago.
Oh, ready?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Refined AF Life Podcast. It's just Refined Life Podcast, and we are completely Refined AF. In a world torn by fear. No. Oh, I'm over here. In a world torn by fear. Hey, guys. Anyway.
The strangest intro we've ever had right there. He combined like 5 different types of intros that he's done before and just put them all in.
Let me tell you something, brother. I've done that one before. Listen, here's the deal. So this one has got me a little nervous because I'm probably going to get emotional.
No.
But
He looks like he's getting emotional just talking
I
about
am. I've been emotional for the last week. So as a young man, a guy walked into a bar and saw me at 12th and Porter named Toby Keith. And he signed us to our first record deal. Changed my life forever. So, obviously, I want to talk about him. I want to honor his life, and all that. But I also just want to talk about losing people that are close to you, grief, how you deal with those things. I think that's something that a lot of people are going through every single day, that they've lost somebody, that they're not sure how you get through it, how do you get over it. And everyone hits you different. I've lost a lot of people in my life, a lot of close friends, family members, things like that. And every time I think, oh, man, I don't even know if it could affect me anymore. After you lose your dad, you're like, I don't know if anything's going to affect me. And it still does. It still hits you because every time you lose somebody, I think there's this refined moment in your life that you're like, dang, it's going to end at some point. There's going to be a time when it's going to be over with. And you don't know the day, the minute, the hour, any of that kind of stuff. And every day you walk around thinking you got all the time in the world. But every day could be your last day. Every breath you take could be your last breath you take. So I don't want to be morbid with it, but I want to do it as almost like this warning to people of like, it's okay to forgive people. It's okay to let go of things that happened 20 years ago. It's okay to forgive yourself, and that's really where I want to touch base on it. But I do want to spend some time up front just honoring somebody that changed my life, that gave me an opportunity, that really believed in me before I did. I didn't think I deserved a record deal when I got a record deal, but this is a guy that at that point in time, I don't think there was anybody bigger than him, at least for sure in country music, but maybe in the world. I mean, this dude was just on a tear and having number one after number one, selling 5-6 million of every record he put out. And he, in the middle of all that, believed in me and believed in what I was doing. And he signs me to a record deal, and before we even signed it, this was probably, I think it was 16 days after we found out we were getting the deal for sure. Like, he wanted us, we were good to go, we were waiting on the lawyers and all that. I got to tell my dad that we got the deal, and 16 days later, my dad passed away. So this coming March would be 17 years. So 17 years ago, right around this time, actually at CRS, Toby Keith saw us. We go through the back and forth, and Toby signs us, lets us know he's signing us. And I tell my dad's so proud, and then he's gone. So it was like this greatest, at that point in time, of course I've had way greater moments now, but at that point in time, it was the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. Was, this opportunity to be like, dude, you're going to get a record deal. You're going to go on tour with Toby Keith. You're going to do all this stuff. And ain't it crazy how sometimes when something great happens, there's something trying to take that joy away from you right around the corner. And I was processing still, but then we went on tour. So it took me a couple years before I really processed the death of my dad, because it was like I was sad when it first happened, but I was trying to be strong for everybody else because I was the oldest brother. So I was trying to be strong for everybody. And then all of a sudden I'm on tour. So it's like, oh, man, we're out here. Every day's a holiday. Every meal's a feast, when we were living it up. And, we were grinding and hustling and all that kind of stuff. And, I learned so much from watching Toby do business. I learned so much from sitting on the bus and talking with him and things like that. And I don't think I ever took it for granted because I knew how special that was in the moment. But, you know, at 2:30, I think 2:38 in the morning, I got the text message, you know, last week that Toby had passed away. And it come from Drew, which is Toby's daughter's husband, son-in-law, and we've been friends for a long time. And he sends me that text message, and I don't know why, but I woke up, like randomly. I was already asleep, but I woke up and I look at my phone and I'm like, and it just said, "Hey buddy, Toby just passed on," you know. And I was just like, kind of like really didn't get back to sleep that night, just processing, thinking about all those memories, all those things. And of course then that flooded into me thinking about my dad and all this other stuff. So I think what I want to talk about today is just, have you lost in your life? If you did lose, how did you overcome those feelings? I know you have one in the last year that was probably one of the hardest losses that you've ever had because it was a different kind of loss. But yeah, I think I want to just touch base on that and let people know, like, man, you're not alone. I mean, we all have this thing in our heart where it's like, man, you miss that person. I think with my dad, there's days that I don't think about it at all, and there's other days that I can't stop thinking about it. You know, and now that Toby's gone, I don't think there's been a day. Of course, you know, there's all these tributes on Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff. I don't think there's a days went by yet that I haven't had a little bit, you know, welled up with some tears just thinking about what would my life have been if it had not been for him walking in that bar that night.
Yeah.
And Bobby Pinson actually brought him to come see us, and we were at the Billy Block show, and I started thinking about that. The night we signed our deal, that Toby said we're getting the deal, Toby Keith was there, Billy Block was there, Troy Gentry was there, the lead singer of Smash Mouth was there. There was somebody, Kirby, who was the tour manager on Toby's deal, was there. His bass player and his fiddle player, Joey and Chuck. Well, Chuck and Joey, because Chuck was the bass player and Joey was the fiddle player. They've all passed on, you know. And it's like it just blew my mind. The lead singer of Smash Mouth was there, and he's passed on, you know. And it just got me to thinking, like, man, you don't ever know.
You don't ever know.
You don't know when it's your time. That's why I think God is so important in this conversation because, you know, and you know, regardless if you're a believer or not a believer, I'm a believer, and I look at it every day and I'm like, am I living a life that's, you know, worthy? Am I living a life that's going to take me there? Because you could always sit there every day and think you got all the time in the world, you know, but my dad, his last sermon was talking about the angel of death, and it says he said in that sermon, he said, you don't even know. He goes, you never know when in the day or the hour or the time. He said, it says he'll come like a thief in the night in a twinkling of an eye. He said, you could die in a car wreck on the way home tonight. And literally he died in a car wreck on the way home that night, you know? So anyways, I guess my thing with y'all is that I'm processing this and I'm trying to overcome, you know, this feeling of, I don't even know what you call it. Like I have grief. I have like, you know, grieving and things like that. Like I miss him. I know, you know, we don't get to talk on a regular basis, but it's like I think about a guy that was important in my life. But as it's bringing in those feelings, it brings in the feelings of like, well, man, are you being the best dad you can be? Are you being the best husband you can be? Are you spending your time the right way? So I guess that'd be my question is, you know, just starting off and giving the floor to y'all. Who have you lost? Who was the hardest loss that you had? What's the different types of loss that you've had? Whether I don't care if it's, you know, it could be a goldfish for that matter, but something that impacted your life.
Yeah, I think I've had similar thought process to what you're going through right now. Just, I'm going to call it 2 weeks ago, Emma and Addie's, one of their grandfathers went to work a few weeks ago and never came home. He died that day. And it's one of them situations where it wasn't expected. You know, it was just like literally got up, went to work, was getting his trucks ready for his employees. He's self-employed. And one of their employees, first day on the job, shows up and finds him face down on the ground, dead. So in that moment, it's hard not to. I think I came home that night, and Emma can confirm this. My first question to all three of my girls was, what can I do better to make you know that if something happens to me, I loved you more than anything in this world? Right. Autumn's answer was, what was her answer? She wanted me to wake up in a better mood in the mornings. Like, give her a hug, start the day, something along them lines. Addie's answer was when she comes to me and I'm on my phone or on the computer and wants to talk or wants to ask a question, that I don't say, hold on. That I just stop what I'm doing and give her that attention. And Emma, do you remember what your answer was? We have a special guest today, everybody. This is little Emma, 9 years old.
That goes wild.
Hey, my Tesla will do that. You did that very well.
No, it farts.
Well, it does now.
I do that very well, too.
Yeah, dude.
I'll knock him out of the park today.
I feel like I can go toe to toe with your Tesla.
Do you remember what your answer was?
Yeah.
All right, give it to him.
It was like where we would sit around and tell about our day.
Yeah, she wanted more family time. When we
Quality time.
all get home, she wanted us to get back to. So we used to do what we called our family huddle, where before we went to bed, we would come together as a family. Best thing that happened, what you want to pray about, and we'd go around the room. But now she wants more intent on when we're all at home, just spending them few minutes together when we get home, rather than it being bedtime. Let's get together. So that was. So point being, I think what you're going through is something we all go through to an extent. When you lose somebody that's close to you and that has affected your life, it affects you in a way of how can I personally do better to where the people around me know how they've affected me and know that I've loved them and so on and so on. But the closest loss I've had is my father as well. That's been 2018. Emma's shaking her head because we have had some other losses over the past year, but my father is the one that's affected me the most. He was my best friend through and through.
Yeah.
If there was a Duke game on, we watched it together. If there was a Titans game on, we watched it together. If I was going out to eat with family, he was there. The man was included in everything I did. And my answer to how I get through that is I really focus on the positive he brought into my life. Like I focus, yes, it sucks that I don't get to watch any more Duke games with him, but I was super blessed that we had them opportunities up until the point of losing him. And I think when I focus on the good rather than the negative side of that, it allows me to keep moving. And plus I want to honor him every day, day in and day out. Like part of my drive is making him proud.
Yeah.
Period.
I love that.
That's my story.
What about you?
You know, I've always thought there was something weird with me because I'm not affected by death the same way that most people are. But I think it probably has more to do with I am a very sensitive person, and I think that I tend to things that are extremely painful. I think I just shut them out.
Yeah.
But I've also, in that same regard, dealt with death a lot earlier than some people do. And since then, I haven't really had anyone that I think that I'm super close to. Like, I was probably in my 9th grade year. And one of my best friends died. And then... And I only say one of my best friends because I considered him probably my best friend. And then at the funeral, I realized this guy had a lot of best friends. Like everyone loved this guy so much. And then right after high school, another one of my best friends died. And it seemed like, and if I really stopped to think about that, I mean, like now that I'm thinking about that, like it's another couple kids from our high school that died. Like there was a lot of death between my freshman and year 20, say, of like close friends. And so I think it's set me up a little bit different because of that. That first one was super, super impactful because it just never occurred to you that someone in your high school, was going to die with you. And then moving on since my family was very blessed. They all lived to be very, very old. So like anybody who died, like it was expected. It was like once you cross over that 90 age, you're like, oh well,
it's coming.
It's coming. You're right. Grandfather was 94 when he passed away. Then my other grandfather was 99 when he passed away. My grandmothers were both like 95, 96 in there. So you kind of expected it. But on that note, though. I watched my wife really, really struggle with her grandfather and grandmother passing away in the last few years. these were just very, very strong, very gifted people that just really left a legacy on this earth like not many get to. And I remember watching my wife still cry, like 3-4 months later, something would come up about her grandfather and she'd start bawling. And one day I was like, what do you think about this? Like, this is incredible. You got to live 40 years of your life on this earth with someone that was so amazing that randomly 3 months later, you still cry about him being gone.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, but this man produced one of the other men that also is one of your favorite men of your life, one of his children. And then on top of that, if you look at the worst things about your favorite man, being your grandfather there, if you look at the worst things about that man and the best things about that man, you will find all of those qualities in your husband.
Yeah.
So not only did you get to have this amazing person in your life,
He taught you.
He created what you even went out and got, what you sought after in a husband. Was this man that he was obsessed with playing games with his kids. He was obsessed with family and obsessed with time with everything, and was always the guy that was sitting around going, well, what about this? We got to do this now because we're and he was that. I mean, you met him. I mean, he was at 80 years old, he was still out there picking up amps and stuff with us, carrying them in the house. He was just a hoss and hard worker and just amazing people. And so I really try to look at, and I think it's probably my age at this point of where I'm getting to in life. Instead of looking at something being taken away from me, really looking at, look how long I got to have this amazing person in my life. Look at what this person brought to my life. Like you said with Toby, it wasn't like this was a daily conversation between you and him anymore. But look at what this man brought you. I mean, look at how sought after this man was.
Yeah.
And he stopped to look at you.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing we said with a lot of our family members. Your dad's a pastor. How many people were coming after him?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know much about your dad, but I know what he raised, and I know that when we discussed family and coming from different areas and what you learned, me and him had very different views. And you were like, I learned a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah.
my parents, and so I don't know. I think that I definitely process death a little different, and especially getting older. I'm just thankful for the time that I have. Now, given that, I've got other friends that, they lost a kid.
Yeah.
I can't
Imagine.
wrap my head around that. But I think, man, I think that's probably why I think so much about how much you're gifted with the time that you have with someone. Because I have 6 kids, and I think about it on a regular basis. It's a miracle that all 6 of them are healthy. And then when you start watching other people whose kid passes on, or they're like with Jen's grandmother, she had her child die before her. Now he was in his 40s, but still those aren't things that you think about happening. But it happens all the time. We all know people whose children have died before them.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of me is just trying to set myself up for you don't know what's going to happen in your life. Just enjoy every minute. But you know what does kind of haunt me though? Is that whole idea of the Tim McGraw song, Live Like You Were Dying. Yeah. Because like you said, we just take it for granted that I'm going to wake up healthy tomorrow.
Yeah.
My kids are going to wake up healthy. My wife is going to wake up healthy. But if someone told you, well, not that kid. That kid you only have a year and 3 months with.
Right.
Whew. Talk about the last episode of Value of a Dollar.
Yeah.
How much is it going to mean then? How much time do I spend with that kid now?
How many of us can honestly say we wake up and live every day like it could be our last? I know I don't.
No, I don't either.
I feel like that's probably one of our biggest failures across the board, person to person.
But I also don't know really how you do it at the same time. How would I pay my bills? Because if I honestly thought it's all going to be over, I'd be like, well, take out a bigger life insurance policy first.
Well, I think it even just means on a, live like you were dying. When you're a person of faith, it's like you want to make sure that walk with God is real tight.
Amen.
You want to make sure those steps you're taking are truly in the path of righteousness and the path of, getting you to heaven. Because ultimately on this earth, we're in this body for a season. And it's a short season. When you think about eternity, we can't fathom it. No matter how hard we try, humans can't fathom eternity because we've been born at a certain time and a certain day and a certain month and a certain year and all this. And everything is based on those seconds, those minutes, those hours, those days, months, years, whatever. And then at some point it ends, you know. And it's hard for us to fathom eternity, you know. So as we're trying to do that, it like my mind goes blank. Like I said, okay, it's this long. Well, there's no, it's this long.
You know what's helped me to process that a little bit is that think about it from all these school speeches that we do. Mm-hmm. Think about how much when you were in high school, how much those 4 years meant to you. Think about how big that going from being a senior, going from being a freshman to being a senior, how long that seemed away for you. Yeah. Now in your 40s, you're like, that was nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
That was not, and there's an acceptance of like, I'm gonna be 50 before I know it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be 60 before I know it, and 70 before.
Speeds up.
Like, you understand that. So I look at that and go, I thought that every single day mattered so much between those 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's eternity.
Well,
that's where we're looking at like my entire life now is. Yeah. That's how I'm gonna feel.
Well, it's so weird to me. Like I wake up sometimes. I'm like, how did I get to 40? I feel like I was just this little kid. You need to be listening because you in the middle of it right now. But I feel like I was just this little kid, you know, watching cartoons as a little kid. You know, I mean, we had like Reading Rainbow and Muscles and Bones, and you know, only on Saturdays did we get cartoons. But I remember just sitting there and like I still have these vivid memories of that, like it was just yesterday. But it's been 35 years, you know. And so that led me to just in thinking. I mean, had so much going on my mind in the last week, and you know, I've lost people a lot. But I think for me, just like my dad was, Toby was like a superhero to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna get emotional, but it's like he was untouchable. You know, he was like this guy that he was bigger than life. You know, and I look at that, and I'm like, people say that to me all the time. You're larger than life, but you're really not. You're just this little minute speck in this world. And if you do the right things, then you make it to what is real, you know. And so it's put things in perspective to me. Like, I want to be the best Christian I can be. I want to be able to take other people and let them know about Jesus. I want to let other people know that this is just this season. This is a temporary, what's the Carrie Underwood song? It's a temporary home. That's what this body is. So every day when you get a chance, you might be the only Bible that somebody ever gets to read. You know, so it doesn't mean I'm going to make every right move and do every right thing. But at the heart of who I am, I'm never not going to proclaim the name of Jesus Christ. I'm never not going to be willing. You know, it says if you deny me in front of the world, I'll deny you at the gates. You know, I'll deny you. I'll spew you out of my mouth. Whatever. All the. I don't want to quote exactly, but anyways, I don't want to get too emotional. But I do look at that. I'm like, man, every day that you wake up and you take a breath, you have the opportunity of a lifetime. And when you talk about live like you're dying, are you going to live today and with some kind of purpose? You know, are you going to go after it? And I'm not saying that don't mean you can't have a day where you're like, you know what, I don't want to do nothing today. But for the most part, are you waking up and you're living with that, you know, are you going to tell your wife how much you care about her every day? Are you going to tell your kids, you know? And this interesting thing came up on TikTok the other day, and I should have sent it to y'all, but it made me emotional. And a guy goes, here's an exercise for you. He goes, picture this. You're 89 years old, and you're laying in a hospital bed, and you know it's the end. You know it's almost time for it to be over, and you're gonna, you know, shortly you're gonna be taking your last breath. Do you think that anybody's gonna sit around and remember how many days you went to work, and how much money you made, and this and that? Are they gonna remember you for those things that we chase every single day, the house and all that, or are they gonna remember for you for the way you treated them? Are they going to remember that you let them know that you love them? Are they going to remember? So what are you leaving behind when you go, basically? And it just made me think about it like, man, I want to make sure that I do tell my wife enough, like what you said a while ago. I want to make sure she knows how much I care about her. I want to make sure that my kids understand that. It ain't that I would die for you. I would kill for you. Yeah. Like, you know, if it came down to it and I had to do that, I would, you know. And which, you know, I'm a loving, big, hardcore loving person. If somebody was coming after you, I'm ready to throw down. You know, whatever has to happen. But anyways, you know, saying all that to say this, I just think that, you know, a lot of people take it for granted. A lot of people wake up, and they're holding grudges, and they're fighting still with people. And I can tell you from not my personal experience, I've been blessed that anybody I've lost in my life, if I had problems with them, I've made up with them, and bygones are bygones. But I have a member of my family that, and I won't name it because they'll know that I'm talking about them, but they have a massive regret for not ever healing that relationship from somebody that passed away. They have a massive regret, and they live with it, and they when they get on alcohol, they want to let everybody know it, and they want to, they call you at 3:00 in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And I know that regret, is something that will haunt you forever. So I guess this would be my message to you is like, if you're out there living with that and you haven't forgiven somebody, or you think you got tomorrow, you think, oh, well, we'll do it next week. I'll talk to them next week, or I'll talk to them the week after that. Just know that might not happen. If you're sitting there and you've been fighting with your dad, or you've been fighting with your mom or your granddad, or am I talking to you right now?
We don't fight much.
Yeah. You seem like a sweetheart.
Well, sometimes he like, if I do something bad and I have a bad attitude, he'll be like, if you don't stop this attitude, I'm going to whoop your A word.
Did you stop the attitude?
No.
Does he whoop your A word?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Empty
Well,
threats.
sometimes he does.
Well, you're about getting, but see, you're getting to the age now where the whooping the A word don't really do that much, because he ain't going to hit you in a way that's going to make you hurt anymore. I mean, really, when you're a kid and you get a whooping, it's more about hurting your feelings. But now you get to that age where it's like, let's just make you wear Velcro shoes from the dollar store to school today.
That's a good idea.
Let's take away your TV rights for the week.
Cell phone, for sure.
Cell phone, gone, bam.
Sometimes I just
Take
bet
away
myself.
TV. Dating yourself, man.
Where I would disagree with Emma in this moment is, generally speaking, if it gets to the point of me having to say, hey, if you don't stop, I'm going to whoop that ass, she stops. She just claims she doesn't.
You're such a good little sweetheart.
But she stops. She's a very well-behaved kid 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
It's that 1 out of 10 where sometimes I have to make threats, and they are not empty threats.
See, you're lucky, because some people have the opposite. They're 9 times out of 10. They're 1 time they're good. 1 time But yeah, I want you to know, like, you may not have tomorrow. And it may not even be you that may not have tomorrow, the person that you're mad at, or the person that you're holding that grudge against, the person that you wish that you would have talked to. I mean, maybe it's a friend, maybe y'all had a falling out, and you're just sitting there thinking, man, I really wish that I could talk to them and tell them, but I ain't going to do it because then I have to swallow my pride, You may not even be the one that was in the wrong. Sometimes it's okay to be like, you know what? I wasn't even in the wrong here, but I'm still just going to go and say, hey, I love you. Sorry that I hurt your feelings. I think we've had situations like that in the recent, world. And, and you have to decide, is that person, in your life, have they been a part of your life that's going to make you say, hey, I don't want them to go away tomorrow, and then me not ever having this conversation with them.
Yeah.
Because you got to live with that forever. It don't go away. Their name's going to get brought up around you.
It's no fixing it.
You're going to go to a family function, and they're going to be like, oh, Brother Bill, whatever, You're like, man, crap. Now they're talking about him again. So it doesn't mean it's going to ruin your life, or it's going to, but it can definitely give you these moments that are going to hurt you. So, I'm blessed that I don't have that right now. And, I don't think there's anybody in my life I have any kind of grudges against or anything, but, at least.
Yeah, I don't think that I was thinking about it as you were speaking about it. I don't know that I have any grudges. There's people that I don't like or don't like anymore. I don't really have a grudge so much. I'm just like, this is how this went down.
Yeah.
And now we don't hang out anymore. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
I do think that.
Now, like I said, it's only if you have regret.
Most part, if I do say something in a negative way, I typically will correct that more probably for me than for you, honestly, because I don't. There is a real fear of mine is that I don't want to.
As a man, I've seen Jared, even in the middle of conversations, not even with me, just with other people, realize that he might have went too hard. Like it could even be a band member, just realizing that he might have went too hard on him, because we expect quality, we expect high class, we expect a lot out of our guys, and I've seen him. Even he called me one day. He was mad. It wasn't even anybody in our band. It was a job site guy. And he starts talking to me, and before I could even give him any advice, it's just him sitting there talking to me. He's like, well, I probably shouldn't have said it that way, but he really pissed me off. But you know what? I'm going to let him know, like, hey, I shouldn't talk to you that way. But you can't do X, Y, and Z and expect me not to get upset about it, But he'll do that, and then I'll be like, how'd it go when you had the conversation? I told him I was sorry, and so I mean, I think it takes a really big man.
But it's more for me sleeping, if I'm honest about it, because the reality is that, and there are plenty of times that I'll come back to someone knowing that I wasn't in the wrong for what I said. I was in the wrong in the way that I said it.
Yeah.
And I'll apologize for that, and I'll get no apology back from them whatsoever. And I just have to take it from that standpoint of going, you know what, though? I'm going to sleep really well tonight, and I'm going to go back to my house in a much better mood because I know that I did what I was supposed to do, and you're going to be just as miserable over that because when you're not doing what you should do, you will be miserable over it. You just will, man.
I think that's when you have to ask yourself with each individual person, whatever it is, sit down and ask yourself, if somebody called me and gave me the news right now that this person passed away and there was things left unsaid or things left unfinished, would I be okay with it? And just be like, all right, well.
I mean, I do ask myself that sometimes, and sometimes the answer is, "Yep, totally okay with what I said." You were being a butthole, and I was a butthole back, and that's the way that goes. I don't feel any guilt about that.
And like I said, as long as you don't have that regret, then I think it's a good thing. I think that, of course, like I said, it just
aren't you perfect after you die? Then, if that's the case, because I feel like they know they were in the wrong. If they didn't know they were in the wrong, once they're dead, they're like, I see you. I see it.
No, because they might be still saying, he was still in the wrong, but maybe I could have, just ate the crow on it and just took one for the team. But there's only so many times you can take one for the team for you're like, no, I'm not willing to do that.
Right.
We've had that conversation this week.
But I mean, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think that I've ever walked out. I know that we've gotten upset with each other before.
Twice.
I've don't.
Twice in
we
12
never
years.
We didn't make it past the next 5 minutes without going, let's clarify things, But so I don't.
Well, that's
think
because me and Jared are very similar in the fact that we want to resolve the issue now. I don't want to go think about it and come back and re-talk. Let's get it finished now. But that's only happened twice ever.
No, and with the same thing, it doesn't matter how mad I am at my kids or my wife or anything else. I'm going to say I love you before you walk out the door.
I taught him that.
I don't care how mad we are. You need to know where we're at, just in case anything were to happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I think so. Following up on that, one of the most important things I think we can do when it comes to living each day like it could be our last, that a lot of times gets procrastinated on, is having a will in place.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have, you need to ASAP.
Yeah.
Because what do you not want to happen if you were to pass?
Yeah.
Arguments over who gets what.
Yeah.
Where is it going? What's happening with it?
I think it ain't better to put it in a trust or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, trust and wills, that could be a whole episode. I mean,
we need to talk about that because people need to know because
yeah.
Especially if you got a lawyer handling certain things because, it's when you're older especially, but you realize that a lot of that stuff.
We need to get a lawyer on here. We need to have a discussion between trust and wills.
Yeah, no, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main thing to know is you can get a will in place for $500. Period. So if you don't have one, get one.
You can do a living will.
Start there. Like, don't wait for the trust because, again, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we have a thing written up basically that so that if like when we went to Jamaica, that we know, hey, if this plane crashes and our kids are left there, who's going to be making sure our kids are taken care of, who gets our life insurance, all that kind of stuff. We have all that put together, but it's not in a will form. It's just in here's a signed piece of paper and, and a video of us consenting to it and stuff
for
like
$500, you can have that done.
Yeah. So I want to do a renewable trust, I think. I don't know that. We're going to have to get a lawyer in here and find out. Anyway, let's get back to the lost part of it.
Hey, now that you might be onto something here because I just realized so that's free advice from a lawyer. What else could we get for free from different people by having an interview?
We want to talk to you today about record deals. Go ahead. So what would be the main things you would want to make sure are not in that record deal? Okay? Yeah, check that off. And we'll get you on here for free. Hey, don't worry. Tens of people are going to see this. No. I think for me, every time that I have lost somebody, I do have this moment of the end is near, like you start thinking, dude, that could be me, And obviously, I walk by faith. I know that God's got a plan for my life, and he's obviously spared me from death more than once. There's times I look at stuff, I'm like, how did I not die? You know.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've had plenty of those moments.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
you've had some moments.
Absolutely.
You know, and so you look at that and you're like, you know that God's got a purpose for you here. And one of the things it was hard for me to deal with whenever my dad passed away was, why did my dad go at 43 years old? He was a great Christian man. He was leading a great church. He was in good health. Like all these things, like, you know, what was he, why would God take him? And so I was upset about it one day, and I was talking to my stepmom. I was like, you know, it just made it really hard for me to understand, like, why would God take him when he was this great Christian and he was all these great things, you know, and he did all this. And then there's all these crackheads running around and people that are meth heads and just pieces of crap, you know, human beings that don't offer nothing to this world. And I think we've talked about this before, but my stepmom, she just looked at me and she said, well, she goes, you know, your dad would have traded places with any one of those people so that they could have another day, even if it was just one more day, to have a chance to find God and make their way into the kingdom. And she's like, that's the kind of guy that your dad was. So when God says, hey, it's time for you to come up, that's where he was trying to get to. So he didn't do anything other than go to where he was trying to get to. He goes, now we miss him here because we're in the flesh, you know. We're in the flesh. We live here. We're going to miss him, you know. And Toby Keith had a song called Crying for Me. And it was about Wyman Tisdale, which was a friend of his. And I think he played basketball for Oklahoma City, and then he was a bass player and all this. But in that song, he's like, I'm not, you know, when I'm down here at your funeral, basically, I'm not crying for you. I'm crying for me because I'm going to miss you. I'm going to have that hurt. And then I have another friend of mine who put out this song called I Hope I Die First. And it's about this couple that's been together for a long time. And it's like, you know, I hope I die first because I don't want to be left here to go through all the pain. Now, you're wishing that pain on somebody else, but you're also like, I don't want to go through it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a you know, these are songs that I've listened to over the last Kaylin Roberson was her name, by the way. She was on American Idol, I think, 2 years ago. But these are all songs that I've listened to. You know, I went back and listened to, you know, Toby's new song, Don't Let the Old Man Down. I've probably listened to it 50 times, you know, in the past week. And, you know, went back and revisited a song that I wrote for my dad and all this kind of stuff. So, like, just dealing with this feeling of loss, you know, and, like, music is a big thing for me. Like, music, and, you know, I think that's probably why Toby hit me so hard, because there was so many of his songs that defined my childhood, you know, that I rode the back roads to. I mean, in 93, when Should Have Been a Cowboy come out, I mean, I was on a stick horse, cowboy hat, and, you know, in my underwear, riding around. I should have been a cowboy. Woo! Should have learned to rope and ride. I ain't never been a cowboy in my life.
You know that song, Emma?
I bet you never heard old Marshall Dillon say, Miss Kitty, have you ever thought of running away? Nobody can sing like Toby. Special voice.
Jared just stares at you like.
I can bust into song anytime. But what are some things that I want to talk about that too, because we're trying to give advice here. For me, it's one of the few times that, and you can ask my wife that, you know, this past week I went quiet, you know, and I go through, and, you know, it's like whenever I was riding down the road, I turned on music, you know, and I listened to them. I sit in the driveway probably for 30 minutes the other night because I wasn't ready to walk inside, you know, just, you know, I wanted to gather myself before I walked in the house and be the person that my kids expect me to be the person my wife expects me to be. And I think we all go through the moments where it's like, all right, let me collect myself and get myself ready to go in here. And because you want to go in with a good attitude, you want to go in with the like, hey, Dad's home, you know, you don't want to go in with this like being sad or being somber or, you know, had a bad day kind of thing. But sitting out there in that driveway and listening to music and just kind of going through the memories in my head, you know, it's one of the ways that I kind of have dealt with this so far, still dealing with it. And in a million years, I knew it was coming. Like I knew that stuff had come back, you know. I mean, last December I had texted Crystal Keith, which is Toby's daughter, and she had told me like, hey, the cancer's gone. He's doing great. He's off in Europe, touring around with Trish, and they're living their best life. You know, everything's going great. And then, you know, it was about 3 or 4 months later, we were having a meeting at my resort because we had some big investors that wanted to come in and put on a big show out there at the resort. And I was like, dude, Toby's better now. I was like, I'd love to be able to, you know, like take this whole 360 thing where it's like, I can book Toby Keith, you know, and get the had $1 million investor that would be willing to pay him the money that it would take to have him come out there and play. Like, it would have meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And then whenever I called, you know, a mutual friend of ours who is Toby's booking agent, Kurt Motley, who was my booking agent whenever we were on Paradigm and when we were on Toby's label, and he just told me, he's like, man, he's like, we're playing that by ear. We're taking it, you know, a day at a time. And he goes, there is going to be some shows, but we're not sure how many yet. And, you know, he didn't go into detail, but he let me know that they had seen there were spots that had come back up on his stomach or what was left of his stomach and stuff like that. And, you know, so I kind of knew that the possibility was there. You know, I didn't know how long it was going to be or any of this stuff. And I don't even know if they knew it was going to happen that quick. Haven't got into those details yet with the family. But, you know, seeing that news and hitting me like that, I was just like, golly, it's like, I did not know it was going to hit me this hard because I knew it was coming. You know what I mean? Like, I knew it was going to happen probably this year. And I was hopeful that, you know, he could fight it off, you know, and I think he fought like a madman for 2-3 years. But I didn't know it was going to affect me like that. I didn't know I was going to be thinking about it a week later, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's like I don't have any unresolved issues or anything like that. But it's like this weird part of me that's like, you know, just has this emptiness in my heart.
No, I think that's okay, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's also catching you off guard because when your mother dies, your father dies, your brother dies, your kid, you're very aware of how that. Yeah. Like, you don't know how it's gonna, but you're prepared for this is gonna be something. This is a person who wasn't really in your life every day. You know, this is a different sort of thing, but he altered your entire life with one move.
Yeah.
So there's no way not to think about that differently. And I think that, you know, there are certain people in my life that when that day comes, there's a likely chance I won't have thought about some of these people for years.
Right.
And when that day comes, you're going to go, wow, that person altered my entire world.
Yeah.
That person altered my children's world.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I wouldn't even have been here and met my wife and had my kids. And, you know, I mean, obviously you wouldn't know what you didn't have.
But you'd own a slew of Sonics by now.
I would be a big-time Sonic drunk. Well, I'd be dead, actually. If I had to
that's also true.
Yeah, I mean, I was already pushing 500 pounds before I got here. So imagine if I'd have spent another 17 years working at Sonic
because
Drive-In.
your biggest loser, that was still celebrity biggest loser, right? It wasn't like just random people.
No, it was random.
Oh, it was random.
We just had me and another guy on there that we had Antone Davis, who played in the NFL and played for the UT Volunteers.
You just had multiple celebrities on your season.
We were supposed to have Phil Margera on our season, Bam's dad, but they ended up not being able to let him come on because of health issues and stuff, which he's passed on now. So, but they were going to have. I think there was kind of going to be a hybrid year there, you know. But I wasn't. I mean, I was cooking pretty good at that time. I guess I was decent sized celebrity, but in the world of country music, anyways. So that leads me to my next thing to talk about here, and this is something that means something to me because I want to make sure people know. I think there's speculation always of like what was a person really like, you know what I mean, when they're famous, and some people have never met them, but they have their. You got it. Now hold it the whole time. All right, I'm gonna be serious.
Hey, that will go viral.
Yeah,
this will.
Yeah, open.
This will go here.
No, don't show any teeth.
What?
I almost had in there. So I think there's this speculation of what people have in their mind of what somebody was like, and they don't have a clue. You know, I think there's a side of people that on a political side that think Toby was this far right, crazy. You know, like he was a Trumper and he was this and he was that. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that were, you know, that had never been around him that might have ran into him once and maybe he was with his family and he was busy and he didn't give them the 2 or 3 minutes of his time because he was busy, you know, or whatever. And I want to clear some things up to make sure people know that the kind of person he was. Toby was the kind of person that wanted to make other people's dreams come true. He had already done all the things that he could do himself. He had seen every wonder of the world. He has homes in different countries and is worth $1 billion and all that stuff. So he was the kind of person that wanted to see other people's dreams come true. He was the kind of person that you know, he wanted to make sure that whatever he was going to do, though, it was going to be somebody that was going to be willing to work, was going to be willing to grind. I mean, when he signed you to a record deal, there was no like, hey, here's some people that are going to give you songs to cut. It's like, hey, you pick your songs, you put it together, you figure out who you want to produce, or if you want to produce it yourself, or if you want me to be part of that. It was no, I'm going to change who you are. He signed somebody that he believed in because he saw the vision and what they already were. And he was willing to put his money where his mouth was. I mean, they spent millions of dollars on Trailer Choir. You know, you don't think about it because we didn't have this massive career, but we had 5 songs that were in the top 40. You know, every one of those songs they probably spent $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 on. Beer Gut probably was close to $1 million. You know, and that's his money. You know, because he could have put that money in his pocket. He didn't have to invest. You know, he didn't have to put money into. I mean, he put money in. He was the one that put Taylor Swift on the map. He's the one that signed Taylor Swift. You know, and he signed her because she was a good songwriter. You know, but he had his.
So he made dreams come true. He didn't want to. He did.
No, yeah, he made dreams come true. He literally. He was just that kind of person. But he wanted to know you. He wanted to make sure you were going to be a hard worker. He wasn't going to do the work for you. He was going to give you the opportunity, but you had to go to work. You know, and I think about that when when you're reading the Bible. The way I put it, the Scripture is, you know, God said, you know, if you have faith within a grain of a mustard seed, you can command the mountains to move, and they'll get up and move. But guess what? That might entail you picking up a shovel and starting to show that you actually believe that it's going to be able to move.
That's right.
And what happens is you believe a little bit every single day, and eventually you've moved that entire mountain. You know, you might have had get some dynamite and some pickaxes and some shovels and started going to work. But you have to have faith. If you have real faith, and you put it in action. And that's the kind of person Toby was. He was the kind of person that put faith into action. He saw something he liked, he went after it. He saw something he didn't like, he was willing to say no, you know.
Yeah.
I won't go into too many instances because I don't know what all he would have wanted told or not told, but, you know, I watched them put some pressure on him one night. We were in Tampa at the amphitheater, and there was a, you know, high-end, you know, I can't want to give too much detail. But they were trying to, you know, they wanted him to do what they wanted him to do, and he said no. And then they told him all the reasons why he should do what they want him to do, and he said no. And they got mad, and they wadded up their little backstage pass, and they threw it at Toby, and said, "Well, if you don't need us, then we don't need you," you know, and kind of made it like that. And everybody kind of just froze. And then Toby goes, "Hey, Jason, get her out of here." He said, I can't believe you had to act like that. He goes, you just go ahead and get off my bus. You know, like he handled it so nonchalantly, and this woman had just disrespected him as a pretty high version of disrespect to be on a man's tour bus, backstage at their show, trying to get them to do something you want them to do. They say no, and so you get all angry at him. And he didn't say, no, he's like, you know, hey, you know, I'm just, it's not something I agree with. I don't want to do it. It was that simple.
Yeah.
And they couldn't handle that no. But the way he handled it was, hey, just get her out of here, you know. There wasn't no meanness. He didn't call her names back. He didn't throw anything at her, you know. He just said, hey, it's time for you to go. And she left. And then about 3 days later, she was fired. So, not Toby's call either. But anyways, I learned so much, everything about how you handle people. He stayed so calm in any situation. No matter what was going on, he could stay calm. You know, we were in Detroit. There was a bomb threat. They had all the bomb dogs out there because Detroit or Dearborn, maybe it is, has one of the highest Islamic certain organization or something like that, the highest amount of people that live there, population. And so there was Toby's known as, pro-America. So they got the bomb threat. So as we get there, we get off the bus that morning, and we're walking through the DTE Energy Center, and there's all these dogs. And I'll never forget, we walked by them, and Butter's like freaking out, because he had a little stash with him, and the guy that had the dogs, he goes, they ain't looking for that. And so, we didn't know what was going on. Then they told us that they were bomb dogs, and they were looking, Toby dealt with that. Toby dealt with death threats. Toby dealt with all this stuff. And, no big deal. Just roll off his shoulders like it wasn't nothing. And he just handled people with kindness. I mean, every single person. If he didn't want you around, he just like, no. That was it. Just that simple. No.
I love it.
Go away. Maybe that's a certain power you get with a certain amount of fame or whatever, but he was the one guy that I think, when you want to look at modern outlaws, because there's been some great outlaws throughout country music, but he's one of the modern ones that he didn't give. Like he made a decision, I'm going to do the songs that I want to do. And everybody told him, kind of like what you said with Adele on the last episode. Everybody's like, no, if you do that now, they ain't never going to play you on country radio. If you do that, you ain't going to get this. You ain't never going to never have a hit again. And it was when he did that catapulted the career, because he had 2 or 3 number ones, and he was just kind of one of those artists that was as big as his current single. And then if there was nothing going big at the moment, he'd still go make money and do good. But then another single would hit and he'd do okay for, he'd have a number one and do good. But then How Do You Like Me Now come out. That was his decision. And he left a record label and bought all of his masters and went and said, no, I'm doing this. Went to James Stroud, and James Stroud was hesitant because he didn't want Luke Lewis to be mad at him, But Toby convinced him, said, no, we're going to put this out together and it's going to be the biggest thing. And it was, And from that time on, I don't know what was the year, was that 2001? Probably 2000, 2001. Maybe it was 99, I can't remember. But they put out that song. And then a stream of, 15 number ones followed after that, I think he ended up having 20, like real, what they consider real number ones. It goes number one on every chart, some that went number one on Media Base or Billboard, but didn't go number one on the other one. But when they consider it number one, is 20 full-on number one, several other number ones on each platform. And then I think he ended up having 42 top 10 hits, top 10 or number one. And he put that out, and most of that happened after he was willing to say, nah, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah, he wasn't scared of failure.
Yeah. And knowing that, he spent all the money he had to buy out those masters and get himself out of that deal and take it to somebody else. So took a leap of faith. But I'm just saying, he was a kind person. If he loved you, you knew it 100%. If he didn't like you, you knew it 100%, And there was no black and white. There was no like, well, no, it was just like, no, our relationship is done, So you didn't have to wonder where you was at. I'd much rather have it like that. If somebody doesn't like me and they know they for sure don't like me, just tell me, and we can be done with that, So I always respected just the way he handled everybody. Like I said, I can't get into some stories because I don't know how much he would want told, but there was little things he would do that I would watch and just be like, wow, what a freaking genius. Like he had little things he'd do to make sure that the people that were going to be around him were people that needed to be around him. Yeah. That they were going to be loyal, or they were going to be, honest or trustworthy, whatever. And so he was one of the best teachers I ever had in my life. He changed my life forever. He gave me a chance when I don't know that any other record label would have ever signed us. I mean, you think about it. We had me, almost 500-pound breakdancing redneck that wore overalls and half rap, half sang. Really, my musical talent was not at a high level at that point because I didn't even know when to come into a song. Like, I didn't know how to tell what beat of the song to come in on. I still struggle with it. But then you had Butter, who looks like this little punk rocker who was wearing shorts with, mid-level boots, cargo shorts that hung down past his knees, with a pair of glasses that didn't have no lenses in them, and a do-rag and a backwards hat. And then you had Crystal, this gorgeous soul singer from Louisiana, I don't know that any other label would have been like, that's what I'm going to sign. Yeah. And our song was about rocking the beer gut in my next 5 beers off the hillbilly hook. Like, I don't think anybody else would have had the balls to sign it. But Toby saw it and loved it and said, I'm going to sign it. And literally everybody at that label was like, no, we can't take that to radio. They ain't never going to play it. I mean, we ended up getting 5 top 40 songs. So we did okay at radio.
It. Yeah.
But I mean, there was a guy out there that was the head of radio whenever Toby said, I want to sign this. And he literally looked at Toby and said, I'm not going to work that to radio. And he goes, cool, you're fired. Just like that. Because he didn't want to do what Toby was wanting to do. Yeah. And Toby had a vision and the way he wanted to go. So he was just one of those guys, man, that just, I could talk about him forever. I could tell a million stories, but I think the best thing I can say is all the patriotism that you ever saw was 100% real. I watched that dude do things, charitable things, and he would not let them publish it. He wouldn't get the publicity for those things. He would just do them. I mean, big money things, like payoff stuff, like big things. And I watched him do that several times. I watched him, the way he treated his band, the way the band loved him, like they were a family. Whenever you went on tour with Toby, he had a thing called High Tops Catering that he brought out, and it was phenomenal food. Every single person ate there. It didn't matter if you were the lowest level trash pickup at the local venue or if you were Toby Keith. Everybody was open to go and eat his catering.
Heck yeah.
And I can tell you from experience, I've been on other shows where they're like, no, this is yours over here. Don't you walk into here. This is for them. Don't come into this tent. I've been on the road with people that are like that. Toby's like, oh, everybody come in here. You know, we got every single meal. This is no joke. Of course, breakfast was a big old spread or whatever, but every single meal of lunch had a bird, a fish, and a steak of some sort. Like you had your pick of that. It had 2 or 3 different types of dessert, you know, several different sides. You had all day long, you could go in there and grab sandwiches and cookies and all this kind of stuff. Like, he took such good care of people, you know. And, you know, I just think that's the kind of person he was, damn it. So if you want to know who Toby was, he was a phenomenal human being. And if you ever hear anything different, they don't know Toby. They don't know shit.
He said it.
Bam! Sorry.
He sounds like a man full of toxic masculinity.
Ooh, Hulk smash! Sorry. Anyways, I've talked so much. I want to make sure that Emma gets to talk. I'm sorry. I'm still processing everything.
What?
What do you think?
What am I supposed to talk about?
Have you ever lost anybody?
Yeah.
Who'd you lose?
My dad's dad, my mom's stepdad, Sadie, Diesel, and Kobe.
Who's Sadie, Diesel, and Kobe?
My dogs.
Oh,
Yeah. And you've lost all them in the past year.
Which one?
How have you dealt with that?
Oh, well, I took Taylor's idea.
Well, tell everybody.
It's like where you think about the good times, and then I think about the times where Dad yells at them because it's funny to me.
You do a lot of yelling.
Apparently, I'm a yeller.
Sadie would chew her crate, and Dad would be like, "Why'd you chew your crate?" And then Kobe would bark while Dad's on the call and stuff.
I know that.
And then Diesel was just the good boy where he wouldn't do anything.
So, from the loss that you've had in your life, what advice would you give the world in your vast years of knowledge and experience? What would you tell the world if you had to tell them, like, the way to deal with it?
Think about the good times.
I like it.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Think about the good times.
But sometimes
The good times that made us laugh outweigh the bad. I thought we'd get to see forever, but forever's gone away. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I used to hang with my boys. I want the Master P version. Sorry.
You know, like she hit on something when talking about the pets, though, because if it comes to death and thinking about death, I definitely, and it didn't even occur to me until she said it, I think about death every single night, and it's only because Nemo, the Great Dane, jumps in bed and he lays right beside me every night. Like, he only stays in bed for probably about an hour while I'm drifting off, and I'm like, all right, dude, you got to go to your own bed now. But, like, because he's like 140 pounds, right? But he gets in bed and he always bows his head to me. Like, that's the first thing he does. He bows his head and he just lays it into me for a few minutes. And then he'll pick his head back up and lay his head over my stomach. And
letting you know you're the alpha.
And I think about it every single night of like,
One
what
day.
am I going to do? One day you're not going to be here and do that anymore. You know? But I didn't even, it occurred to me until she said that about the dogs. Like, dude, think about life every night because of that.
Yeah.
Dude, but
Dogs bring a lot of habits to our life that you don't really understand.
Make you structure a little bit.
Yeah, because, go ahead.
And our fish died. I remember that.
Oh.
Yep.
I don't remember that.
He doesn't know.
He must have jumped out of the fish tank or something. I don't know what
No,
happened there.
it was because the girl was pregnant and then she lost her baby and then she died.
Oh. Yeah, you're
you
probably
didn't know,
right.
Dad.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to whoop your ass.
At grandma's house.
But like
A-word.
Kobe, our most recent pup to pass, was alive for Emma's entire life, and he slept either at the foot of her bed or in her bed every single night.
Or,
Every single
like,
night.
right beside.
Or right, yeah. So it goes to what you're saying.
Yep.
Like I don't want to say you take that for granted, but when you do lose them and that's no longer there, it hits hard because that's the expectation when you go to bed is the dog's going to be there.
I think even just on that, and it's leading me to I got a great song idea. We're going to have to write, but this at some point, I've talked about this before, but my son is going to put on that Superman cape for the last time. Mm-hmm. At some point, his blanket is going to get left behind. It's already started to happen. Like now he don't think about taking it to school. He still wants it when we're sitting around watching the movies and stuff. But like used to, that was inseparable. He could not go anywhere without it. Now he just leaves it. Sometimes he don't pick it up for the whole day. At some point he's picked up that blanket for the last time. At some point your baby girl is going to not come to your bed anymore and want to get in your bed,
I still do that.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm a big old sap.
Mine stopped getting in bed, but they didn't stop coming home and sitting in a chair in the room and telling us about their day.
Yeah. You're like,
only until they moved out did that stop.
You're sitting there with your finger on the button like, I got episodes to catch up on before she falls asleep. Can you? No, but I just think that's important. And that the same thing when we talk about with life, we don't know ever when it's going to be the last time. And I think that's a great song idea. We're going to write that before this episode comes out, just letting y'all know. It's like, but the last time.
Don't give it away.
I'm not going to. I got it in my head now. But anyways, I know we've went a little over on this, and I rambled and talked, and, it's been good for my heart, so I appreciate y'all.
Hey,
Thank you.
Let me work through some of this stuff while we're on here. I ain't through it yet, but we are going to, on March 1st, I don't know if y'all are here or not, but we are going to be putting on an event at the Wild Beaver. For Toby, for his kids' corral. And every dollar that's raised that night will go to it. And so far we have us, Flynnville Train, Carter's Cord, Lance Carpenter.
What do we got to do to be a part of that? Obviously I'm not.
So it'll be
It's
a Friday night at Wild Beaver, so we're just doing acoustic. But what we're going to do is just anybody that comes in, there's no cover charge, but there's a suggested donation. That'll come in, and then we'll deliver.
So
obviously.
No need to reserve a spot or buy a ticket.
No, there's just whoever can get in
can
get in, come in, show up. Bring your friends, everybody. I mean, like to me, anytime I've ever done these, I've always suggested $10. Obviously some people give 100, some people give 500. I've had people give over 1,000. But we just want to do something to honor Toby. His funeral was actually today, and it was just for his family, his band, and just the immediate people, and they are going to have a memorial service, at some point in the next month or so for Toby here. And they said on that post, in lieu of flowers, just make a donation to the Kids Corral, which was Toby's childhood cancer charity. And so I want to make sure that even when we post this episode, that we have some kind of link in there to make sure people can donate. But for me, it's like I want to put on that show to honor Toby. So each one of us artists that he had signed, as many as we can get, are going to sing at least one of his songs. Just honor him and then just raise money that night. And it's going to be in the middle of CRS. So hopefully we'll have a big old crowd there on Friday night, March 1st. You coming?
I just checked my schedule. I'm out of town.
Where you at?
I'm in Gatlinburg.
What are you doing in Gatlinburg?
With the kids.
He didn't invite me to come.
Listen,
I couldn't come
anyways. He's figured it out.
He's going on a cruise like tomorrow or next week. Saturday in 2 days, 3 days, whatever. He's going on a
I'll
cruise.
be back by the time this airs.
Well, he's going on a cruise, then he's going to Gatlinburg, and then starting in May or in April, really, we got shows starting in April. So go ahead.
I have a question.
I have answers. Maybe.
When is y'all's next lift to be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, we've been discussing that actually, and just trying to figure out if that's something we're going to continue at the fountains this year, which I think we probably will.
Yeah, probably so.
Got to figure out.
It'd probably be late April, probably.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that. I mean, obviously April you deal with rain and stuff like that, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. I think we started in May last year.
Yeah. We wait till it gets really hot.
It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May. All right, y'all. Listen, we this episode was supposed to be more about losing and grief and things like that and how you get over it. I don't know if I've helped you do that. I don't know if these guys, they probably had better information for you during this episode than I did. But I just want to let you know that we love you. If you're dealing with some hard things, some hard times, some struggles, Jared loves social media messages. He never misses a message. No,
but if you get me, you get me.
Yeah, that's true. He will be engaged.
We'll have long conversations.
And he will come up with 5 solutions for whatever your problem with.
If you say something super outrageous to get his attention, you've got him, and then you can go to what you really wanted.
Yeah, send him something that says purple bunny, pinky blinders.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to ignore that one. I'm sure that's killing me. Like, I don't need to speak
Anyways,
to this person.
with that being said, like, share, comment. We're going to have a link in the bio or link in the comments or link in the whatever the thing is so that you can donate to Toby's charity. Toby was a good man. My dad was a great man. All these people were great men, and we're glad that we got to know them. Your grandfather-in-law, your dad, your pop. Is that what you called him?
Pops.
No.
Pops?
Wait, which one? I'm so confused.
His dad.
Oh, Pops.
Pops. All these men that had great, effect on our life. Women as well, people that we named our puppy dogs. If you're dealing with grief and you need help, I'm sure that we can probably have some kind of line in this thing. You can hit me up directly on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you get. It's all Big Vinny Official. Hit me up. I love you all. Like, share, comment, 5 stars. Subscribe.
And
love
give
you.
us a big thumbs up.
Woo! Woo! All right.